chase the talent over the landing spot for this season, because you know what? Long term, it's an excellent landing spot.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Fantasy Football Freaks. I'm Jason, he's Vaz, and today we've got a very good episode for you as we go over our 6 rookie picks that we are targeting in our 2024 rookie drafts. So we have an idea of what the rankings are. We've had mock drafts, but these are the players based on whereabouts they're being drafted that, we wouldn't mind trading up for perhaps, or that we really like based on their landing position and where they're being drafted. I think this speaks a lot in terms of tiers in particular, and certainly these guys are guys that we particularly like in this year's rookie class. Vaz, before we get started, anything you want to add as to what we are trying to achieve with this episode?
Yeah, sure. So when I set out to make my list here, I tried to take a guy from round 1, round 2, and then round 3. So a guy that I'm targeting, like you said, in certain tiers. And I'm trying to offer some advice for different places in the draft to help out our drafters who are listening.
Okay, well then without any further ado, let's get started with your first player that you are targeting in rookie drafts.
Okay, yeah. So my first target is Odunze. And the reason I chose him is because I've noticed that he's falling a little bit in terms of like consensus rankings. On Keep Trade Cut, he's still sitting at number 5, but he's fallen into the same tier as Drake May, JJ McCarthy, and Brock Bowers. Whereas before he was in the same tier as Malik Neighbors and Jayden Daniels. So he's dropped a tier. And I've noticed too that in some rookie drafts, people are elevating the other quarterbacks like Drake May and JJ McCarthy ahead of him. So I'd like to say that this is an immensely talented player, and I think he's falling because I think the reason he's falling is pretty simple. It's just because targets will be a little bit hard to come by year 1. So people are probably staying away from that because they're maybe scared they're not going to get the immediate production. But I guess I would argue that, listen, things change so fast in the NFL, and we're playing dynasty fantasy football here. So take the talent that Odunze is, chase the talent over the landing spot for this season, because you know what? Long term, it's an excellent landing spot. Keenan Allen will just be there for 1 year, and then it's like, sky's the limit for Odunze playing with Caleb Williams. So I love the landing spot long term. I think everybody would agree it's a great landing spot long term, and he's immensely talented. So don't make the mistake of elevating guys that are not as high, not as good prospects over him in this upcoming draft. If he's there at 5, take him. If he's there at 6, be thrilled to take him.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. He is still 5th on my target list as well. In terms of my list, the guy I want to start with, it's sort of cheating. I feel bad saying this. I'm going with Jayden Daniels, but the reason I feel bad about this is because, I have him 3rd on my rookie cheat sheet, but not only do I have him 3rd, which I think most people do, but the difference for me is I have him in the same tier as Marvin Harrison Jr. and Caleb Williams. So for me, not only do I like him as the 3rd best guy, but, if I'm picking, let's say, 5th or 6th, maybe even 4th, and I can trade up to 3rd in order to get him, I'm willing to do that. That's how much more sure I am that not only that he's not going to be a bust, but that he has star potential, that he has QB1 potential in a few years with his running ability, with his passing ability, kind of with everything mixed together. I really like him. That's how high I am on him, that I am willing to trade up a little bit further to get him at 3rd if need be. And if he drops to me at 4th or 5th, my goodness, would I ever be thrilled.
Yeah, or possibly even if you're at 1 or 2, like consider trading back to 3 to grab Jayden Daniels if you can get like a substantial package, maybe like a future first. Maybe if you're sitting at 1 and somebody really wants Caleb Williams, maybe you can get like a projected first round lottery pick next season to move back to 3 and get Jayden Daniels as well. So that would be something I would consider in that spot.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because I think we've seen situations where the first overall pick has had trade offers of something like the 6th and 7th, or maybe like the 7th and 10th, and something like that for Caleb Williams. But as an example, like you mentioned, if I could trade that back for like the 3rd and the 10th or something like that, I would love to do something like that. Anyways,
Awesome.
let's get into your second guy that you are targeting in rookie drafts this year.
Okay, my second guy is Jonathan Brooks. And I have him as like personally, I have him around the end of round one in my rankings, but I'm starting to realize that even that's probably too low. And I think consensus he's going at like around 2-1 in rookie drafts. I think like a lot of guys have, Xavier Worthy, Lad McConkey, even Bo Nix ahead of him. And I'm starting to realize that this might be a mistake. I think the draft capital he got is so elite at the top of the second round. We've seen guys like Jonathan Taylor, like Brees Hall, Kenneth Walker. These running backs go at this range in NFL drafts, and that tells me that that kind of draft capital, that kind of team investment is just absolutely elite. This guy has the potential to be like, day one, top 10 dynasty running back, maybe even top five if he performs well. So like in years past, when you've wanted to draft a Brees Hall or a Kenneth Walker or a Jonathan Taylor or a DeAndre Swift, guys who've gone in this range, you've had to use like a top five rookie pick on them, top six rookie pick on them. They go really high. But this year, for whatever reason, Jonathan Brooks is, around 112 or 201. So like I think this is the guy you really, really want to target in this range. I think if you're sitting there at 111, take Jonathan Brooks and be thrilled about it because there is the potential that he is like, a top end dynasty running back for many, many years.
Absolutely. The only thing that bothers me is the fact that he's on Carolina in terms of how good of a team are they going to be for the next 5 years, let's say. And for me, I always like my running backs to be on good teams with good defenses that have winning records. But at the same time, for a talented guy, you never know. Certainly, he has no one in his way in terms of carries and stuff like that. So I have no issues with that. I have him ranked as my top 10 rookie as well. So I have no problem drafting him at 10th overall as well.
Now, I can't do it for you. The inches we need are everywhere around us. What are you gonna do? Like!
Like! Like! Subscribe! 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 Let's talk about my second guy that I want to take. I am targeting Adonai Mitchell or AD Mitchell, who went to the Colts. Ended up being a second-round pick to them. However, he was seen as a first-round talent, certainly towards the end of the first round. And a lot of people have been dropping him in their particular rankings because of his landing spot. And I think it's fair in the terms of he going to the Colts because it's not the best place in terms of a pass catcher. However, his talent, I think, is undeniable. He had some issues with some of the people saying he seemed uninterested at the combines in his interview process and stuff like that. So I think there were some red flags there. And, that is something to consider. But having said that, I'd rather take a guy that's more talented, that has, issues like that compared to a guy who's not as talented that maybe works their butt off. So I am going to stop the line on Adonai Mitchell, and I think I've got him at 17, maybe 16 even on my rankings. So that is the floor for me. No need for me to rank him any lower than that.
Yeah, I love this one. You know what? Like when it comes down to it, you want to draft talented players, right? You want to, as I've said previously, you want to take talent over situation in dynasty. And you know what? As we've seen with like the Eagles, a low volume passing offense can still support two wide receivers. So I think like it's still very possible that Anthony Richardson is capable of throwing for 4,000 plus yards. We're not really sure at this point, but it's possible he could sustain Michael Pittman and Adonai Mitchell. I think it's probable that Josh Downs takes a big hit with this selection, but I think it's very possible that if Adonai Mitchell is who I think he is, he could be like a 1,000-yard receiver.
Yeah, and to get him at that cost, I think is the big thing because he certainly has the potential to be taken higher. But I think when you're taking him as low as, say, 16 or 17, then, the upside for that pick, I think, is so good. Let's talk about the third guy that you are targeting.
Okay, the third guy I'm targeting is my third round selection here, Jermaine Burton. I've talked about him previously. I love this guy. He's my, I think, 20th ranked player, and he's going 27th overall in keep trade cut. So, like early to mid third round. I think if you can get this guy at the back end of round two, you should take him. Like, personally, I love his tape. I think like his tape, he should, based on just purely on tape, he should have been like a second round pick in the NFL draft at worst. Like I saw somebody who runs very clean routes, gains separation very easily, he's got strong hands, has great speed and good run after the catch ability, and I liked his tape more than a ton of guys who were drafted ahead of him in like Jalen Polk and Malachi Corley, or even guys like Ricky Pearsall. So I really love this guy, and his landing spot for me is great too. I think you just draft him and you wait for next season because he's talented enough that he's capable of taking over the number two wide receiver role there in Cincinnati. And then with Chase playing on the other side, who always takes away the top cornerbacks or even double coverage, he could be getting always the second best corner and single coverage. And I think that Burrow could be targeting often in that passing offense, which is a premier passing offense in the NFL. So I really love grabbing him at the end of round two or beginning of round three. For me, as high as pick 20. So like even close to the middle of round two. I really love this guy.
Okay, let's take a look at my third guy that I'm targeting. It is Javon Baker of the Patriots. And, here's a guy where he's going to a landing spot that I think people don't like. We don't know what we're getting in Drake May as a quarterback yet, but at the same time, he doesn't really have much competition in the wide receiver room. We've talked about Jalen Polk before, and what is he really going to become? I think a lot of people were surprised that he went as early as he did, and is he really going to be able to anchor that wide receiver room? When you have, someone that appears to be a weaker one, I think that does give a lot of opportunity to a guy who's seen as perhaps more of a 2 or a 3. And I think Javon Baker is the type of guy that has later draft capital, that has the ability to perhaps become a 1. You could probably get him somewhere in the late 20s, maybe even in the 30s in some drafts. So if that's possible, I think it's a great buy low opportunity for a guy who's got a really high ceiling.
Mm-hmm. I love this one. You know what? And the Patriots, when Drake May is the starter there, he's got a big arm, right? He's capable of throwing deep, and they don't really have like a field stretching option on that team. Even like Jalen Polk, Demario Douglas, Juju Smith-Schuster, these guys are all, the types to run underneath routes. And Javon Baker is the opposite of that. He's like a perimeter player. He can stretch the field. His tape is littered with double moves on deep routes, and I think he could be a great target for Drake May down the road.
Yeah, and he's very shifty with good.
Excuse me.
No problem. He's also very shifty, and I think with good yards after the catch ability. So even on short passes and screens and jet sweeps, I think he's got the ability to gain easy yards for them in that way as well.
What do you say? What do you say? What do you say? You little brat? You have never thanked me. I'll see you tomorrow. Maybe.
So there are our 6 players that we are targeting in rookie drafts. Before we end this video, though, Vaz, I did want to ask you about 3 other wide receivers that have recently signed with teams. Odell Beckham Jr. gets a 1-year deal with the Miami Dolphins. Chase Claypool signs with the Bills on a 1-year deal. And DJ Chark also signs with the Chargers. In particular, the Chargers and Bills obviously have a weak wide receiver room in terms of depth chart. Your take on these 3 guys, and would you give up, let's say, like a 3rd round pick for any of these 3?
Okay, let's start with Odell Beckham. I think he's clearly stepping into the number 3 role there. And I think we've seen in the past that like the number 3 receiver on the Dolphins doesn't garner a whole lot of attention. So he's a fade for me, and there's no way I would give up a 3rd round pick for him. Maybe a 4th, I would, just as like a pure depth piece for the future. But even then, I think I'd rather just take a shot on a 4th round pick, even if it's only got like a 10% hit rate. I'd just rather take that dart throw, And then the second guy on your list was Chase Claypool to the Bills.
Yeah.
again, like Chase Claypool, I think we know what he is at this point. It doesn't excite me a lot. I would probably trade like an early fourth for Chase Claypool because he's younger, so he's got the potential to stick around the NFL for a long time, and I think he will. Um, I think the Bills, even though it's kind of wide open, their receiver depth chart, it's still crowded, in a sense for where, like for his skill level. Like I don't know if he's going to earn targets over like a Curtis Samuel or like a Dalton Kincaid, and obviously not over Keon Coleman. So I think he slides into like the fourth or fifth option there in the receiving game. Even like Shakir is better than him. So I again wouldn't trade a third round pick for a Claypool. A fourth I'd consider. And then the final guy you mentioned,
DJ Chark to the Chargers.
DJ Chark. Yeah. So again, I would not trade a third for DJ Chark. A fourth I probably would, but I think this signing more than anything just kind of worries me over about Quentin Johnson because I'm not particularly high on Quentin Johnson, and I'm worried that possibly DJ Chark even is a better player than Quentin Johnson and might earn targets over him. So I'm not buying DJ Chark. But what he does well is stretch the field, and Herbert's got a big arm. So I think for like an NFL perspective, it's a great buy for the Chargers. I think it's going to help them open up the field for the run game. But I'm probably not giving up more than like an early fourth for DJ Chark as well.
Okay, fair enough. There's the news and analysis on those wide receivers. And again, the top six players that we are targeting in our rookie drafts in 2024. Thank you for watching this till the end. Remember to subscribe to the channel so you're up to date. And also check out our Facebook page. I've got the link listed in the descriptions below. Vaz has vowed that he will answer any of your questions if you have questions on what you should do in your Dynasty Fantasy League. So join the group and leave your questions in there for him. Remember,
let me specify that I vow to answer any trade related questions because I think when it comes to Dynasty Fantasy Football, trading is what sets me apart. I'm pretty good at evaluating and coming up with trades and potential counter offers. So if you have any trade questions, yeah, feel free to leave those questions on our Facebook page, and I'll be more than happy to give my analysis on your trade.
All right. And remember to like the video as well. And we'll see you next time on Fantasy Football Freaks.